Hello everyone, welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. This week, my weekly lesson is all about vets, veterinary surgeons, and the R is silent. Veterinary. If you say it slowly, it's actually veterinary, but because the R is silent, it becomes veterinary, simply. If you've ever gone to London, you'll see it's the same with an area called Marylebone. It looks like it's simply Marylebone. There's a tube stop with the same name in the same area. But if you look at it really closely and say it slowly, the word is actually Marylebone. So, Marylebone is when the R is silenced out, just like in shorter words like work, word, pleasure, father, arm. This is something of British English. So my little cat, he was at the vet's at the weekend. He's back to normal now. He's eating a lot, which is a really good sign for him. And he's just left the room after biting me, which means that he's doing very well. There's a story today in the Guardian newspaper, and of course today is Thursday, the 26th of September, and it's related to medicine and medical treatment, but for humans. It says here, pharmacy closures put the NHS plan at risk. I just want to explain a bit about this before we start to read it. So basically what it's saying that there's many pharmacies closing. So people are going to have problems accessing pharmacy services. That's point number one. Point number two is that our health service, our government health service created by our taxes, is referred to as the National Health Service, the NHS, to use an acronym, okay, or an abbreviation. The NHS, the National Health Service. Now, some time ago, I think a few years ago, somebody somewhere was complaining that doctors are very hard to access because after COVID, you can only call them now. You can't actually get to see a doctor. There's a doctor shortage currently in the UK as well. And it may have been during COVID, I don't remember, but somebody somewhere made a decision that the local pharmacy would take on the role or some of the roles that our doctor performs. They would begin giving health advice and medication, which usually is a service provided only by the doctor. Now, they're not doing everything the doctor does, but they're basically stepping up a little bit to support the doctor. If you go along and say, well, I'm feeling sick, the pharmacists will be able to make a reasonable diagnosis to see whether you should actually talk to a doctor. Whereas before, if you went to a pharmacist and you said, I'm feeling sick, he would simply say, oh, that's a pity, go to the doctor and see what he says. So they're changing their role a little bit. Now, if you've ever been to the doctor in a country like Spain, or the pharmacist in a country like Spain, you'll know that the pharmacies there kind of do this already. The people are all dressed in white overalls, white coats, and they're very concerned about your health and they're there to give you advice. We don't have that here. Our pharmacies are mainly customer service places. I mean, they do know about medicine, but you need to be a little bit careful with that kind of thing. So anyway, the fact that so many pharmacies are closing is putting that additional service, which they're currently doing, at risk. Now, there's pharmacies closing quicker than some of our pubs are closing, apparently. I don't know why. It may be that some of our pharmacies are operated by huge chains and they are cutting back because they're not doing very well financially. I think it's probably more to do with financial decisions than it is to do with need. But we're going to read a story here. It says, mass pharmacy closures put the NHS support plan at risk. So mass pharmacy closures, a lot of pharmacies are closing, put the NHS plan at risk, put the government health service plan of pharmacies supporting them at risk. Let's read it. So it says here, the alarming rate at which high street pharmacies are closing threatens the initiative for them to be used instead of GPs to care for millions of people. Let's just read that again. The alarming rate at which high street pharmacies are closing threatens the initiative, that's the new initiative. By the way, it's called Pharmacy Fast. It's basically saying you should go to the pharmacy before the doctor. So the alarming rate at which high street pharmacies are closing threatens this new initiative for the pharmacies to be used instead of GPs. Last year, 436 community pharmacies in England shut permanently. There were also 13,863 temporary closures, which stopped patients getting health advice in medication. The closures are hitting rural areas, those with larger numbers of older people, and deprived communities hardest. Yeah, it's interesting there that hardest is at the end. It's saying that the closure are hitting rural areas hardest, but they put in a whole adjective sentence in between. The closures are hitting rural areas, those with larger numbers of older people, and deprived communities hardest. It says here, staff shortages, the key driver of permanent and temporary closures, call into doubt how this new government scheme could work, meaning people can't get the advice, care and medication they need. The Department of Health and Social Care in the government said it will be reviewing funding, which was completely ignored by the last government. Well, they say that about everything, don't they? We need to fix this because the last government didn't. So very interesting. Staff shortages, and doctors are saying the same. Is it linked to Brexit? We don't know. Maybe just British people don't want to be pharmacists anymore. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's a live wire kind of a job, does it? You know, when I was younger, I didn't wake up in the morning, get out of bed, open the curtains and say, oh, spring is here, I think I'll become a pharmacist. You know, it doesn't roll off the tongue, does it? Likewise, I got up this morning, staggered over to the kettle in the kitchen and put it on, staggered back to another room, opened the curtains and then said, autumn's coming, I think I'll become a pharmacist. Of course I didn't do that. So, yeah, we don't know where this staff shortage is coming from. I guess it's related to immigration because, of course, now Britain isn't a very attractive place to live. So who knows what the future is going to bring. So yes, many of our pharmacies are closing. But they're operated by huge chains, most of them. So I don't know quite what the situation is. But no doubt, if there's a gap there and money to be made, people will be filling that. So I'm sure somebody in the community will be eyeing up a pharmacy to buy and to train as a pharmacist, you know, because of course there's money to be made in pharmaceutical work. And that's the story for today. The pharmacy industry, or the pharmaceutical industry, and their shops which are closing. Oh, very interesting. There's also another very interesting story here in The Guardian, which is about some words that we don't use anymore. They're saying here that we no longer use the word bit very much. For example, it was very common if you're very upset to say, "Oh, I'm in bits." Or "My mother just passed away, I'm in bits." It means I've gone to pieces, which is the more polite way to say it. It means I'm all over the place. I've just, feel so sad that I don't feel whole. I'm in pieces. I've gone to pieces. More informally, I'm in bits. There's also a phrase using the word bit, to do your bit. If you're working in a team, your contribution is valuable. You have to do your bit. And it's something your mother might say to you as well. If you've been told to clean the house, your mother might say, "Okay, it's time to do your bit. It's time to make your contribution." Bit. And it goes on here to talk about when it's used, and to say that it's not really used anymore. Well, I still hear it. It says here it was used a lot in America during the 1990s with President Bill Clinton. He wants America to believe he's only included the good bits to help the legislator reach an informed decision. And the word bits in this case is parts, so that's another word meaning. Okay, so we have bits as in gone to bits, after a stressful time, gone to pieces. That's a famous song, isn't there? I've gone to pieces, I think. There's also bits of a machine, according to other ways we would use it, like parts of a machine, We use it in many, many different ways. There's also, if you want to ask someone to wait one moment, informally, you could say, "Could you hang on a bit?" Or "Could you wait a bit?" Your boss might even say that to you. If you say, "I need to call the customer again to try to get something out of them." If you want information from your customer, you can tell your boss, "Yeah, I'm going to call the customer again now." And your boss might say, "Could you just wait a bit? Could you hang on a moment? Could you wait a bit? Could you wait an hour? Just wait a bit of time because they'll be at lunch right now. Wait a bit." Well, it seems that this word isn't used as often as it once was. Well, I still use it. Yeah, I was watching a movie last night, and towards the end of it, I was in bits. It was very emotional. I don't know what it was called. Was it Steel Magnolias? It was one of these chick flicks. It was a nice movie. Anyway, I was too tired to watch it right to the end after a hard day on Skype. But I was in bits by the end of that. Very interesting and funny movie. I don't have time to do the other words, but we're not using the word cheeky very often now. Clever is another one that we're not really using, and gutted. Gutted is the same as going to bits or going to pieces. Oh, I'm absolutely gutted. My football team didn't win. Gutted is a little bit different from going to bits or pieces. Gutted is what we do to fish. We catch them in the river, and that process of opening them up and removing the bones literally means gutting them. It says here that the word meant or can mean bitterly disappointed, devastated, shattered, or utterly fed up. And it was in the dictionary of slang. Oh, I didn't know there was such a thing, a dictionary of slang. And it was a metaphor for not feeling your best. That's a little bit different from going to pieces. That's when you've had bad news and you really feel that, you know, your body is all over the floor. Although it does say here, as an example, my partner of 2 years just broke up with me. I'm gutted, absolutely gutted. Okay, so maybe it is a bit of a crossover from being in bits, but I still think bits is emotional. It's something a woman would say after a breakup. A man would say gutted as in meaning that he's upset, but a woman would be talking about the emotional turmoil. She would be in bits, although these days, I mean, who knows? And that's our phrases for today. So there we are. Oh, lovely. Lots of nice, beautiful phrases. And yeah, obviously, there's many other things that I could say, but let's leave it there. That's it. See you all again soon. Bye.